Hello, good evening, and once again, and welcome to another edition of Caribbean Feedback. My name is Curtis Henry. I will be your moderator this evening. I hope I can keep this thing under control. There is no surprise. The title of the show, it is listed. And I hope everybody is ready to take this ride. Metaphorically. Not literally. I hope all are ready. Hold on, Sam. Didn't that other young lady say that she was coming early? She was coming to class early from now on. Didn't she say that? Yeah, as I was saying, welcome, Dr. Judith.
Yeah, she rich.
Welcome, Judith. You see, in front of your face and behind your back, I'm talking good about you.
Don't change it. Yeah, don't change it.
How everybody doing?
Hello, everybody. How are you?
Greetings.
Hi. Greetings.
Greetings.
What go on?
Greetings from Chatt to all ragamuffin.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
She's saying all ragamuffin, but in her eyes, it only have one right here, sir. So, Sam, tonight we outnumbered.
We are?
We have two men in the house, and we standing up against three women. Two of them who are familiar with each other and they know how to bounce off one another. And we have a stranger in the house. So I'm going to try my best to be at my best behavior this evening.
Yeah.
For the sake of our guests.
Let me see if I could get Mark. And then we go.
Good night, Lucy O'Brien. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I noticed our good buddy, Mr. Mervyn Carter, stopped by and said hello, Andrea Lamothe. Hello and good evening to you also. Let us get this thing going because, in my opinion, I don't think this show is going to do with one episode. So we're going to get right into it. So let's start by, first of all, Karin, let's hear what you have to say.
About
My name is Karin Forrester. I represent BantuKreations. BantuKreations offers beautifully made, African-inspired, lightweight, handcrafted, one-of-a-kind earrings in wonderful shapes, shades, sizes, and colors. Please don't be scared of the large sizes. They're extremely lightweight earrings. BantuKreations can be found on IG and on Facebook as BantuKreations. That's BantuKreations with a K.
Come check me out, chriskeys.com. I'm worldwide.
Tony Altamirano.
Hi, I'm Gina.
What's up, everybody? I'm Win Vu, award-winning remixer.
Koya, I'm an artist.
Hi, my name's Justina Bethel.
Hi, I'm Mike Bowen from Denton, Texas. How you doing? This is Tom Cup from Music by Tom Cups. Check out Samuel E. Archer's book, Hybrid Executive. We are in the business, and here's how you can be a better business person because you're running your business.
You can find my music at JustinaBeth_EL on Instagram or JustinaBethel.com, and I am a hybrid executive.
I'm a hybrid executive.
I'm a hybrid executive, just like you.
Follow me at Koya Music, and I'm also a hybrid executive.
I'm worldwide, baby, but just know I'm a hybrid executive. That's all you need to know, baby.
Get on up, B.
Check out my music, MikeBowen.com. I'm a hybrid executive.
I'm a hybrid executive.
Thank you so much.
What's up? That's what's up.
Lovely words. Well,
that's what Karin was supposed to say, right?
Yeah, that's what she's supposed to say.
Okay. I was just making sure that.
Sitting in with us this evening, we have You all remember a few weeks ago we had 2 Judiths on the program.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we had 2 Samuel on the program.
Yeah.
And then we had 2 Marks on the program simultaneously. This evening, we have my namesake.
That's right.
Miss Henry. Is it Mrs. Henry or Miss Henry?
Ms. Henry.
Ms. What is the Ms? I don't quite understand that. You're Miss or you're Mrs? You're married or you're on the market? Which one?
Just think of it as the equivalent to Mr. Neither here nor there.
Neither.
Just like Mr.
That is a low
Neither
blow.
here nor there.
That is a low blow.
When you say no, if you say Mr., there is no indication of married or not. So the Ms is just similar, no indication of either. So that's we can view it like that.
Yeah,
you're just flowing with the wind. So listening to your accent, I take it that you're from my homeland. You're from Trinidad or Tobago?
From Tobago.
You from Tobago? Sam from Tobago.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Henry. I'm very sorry to interrupt. I need about 10 minutes to take care of something personal, and I will come back. Is that okay?
Oh, sure. Come on back in. Come with your gun swinging because I'm shooting for you tonight.
Okay. Curtis, go on to your business. I'll be back.
So yes, Miss Henry, what part of Tobago you're
from? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
What part of Tobago you're from?
So originally from Mariah, that's where I spent my childhood. I currently live in Wim.
Wim, I never heard of that.
Yeah.
So you're from Trinidad, you're not from Tobago?
Well, I like to claim my Tobago roots. I say I'm from a place called Goodwood.
Okay.
Why you laughing, Sam?
Miss Henry, don't fall for this thing tonight, you know. Know what you're in for.
But why you laughing, Sam? You know about Goodwood?
If I heard about Goodwood. yeah. I heard about Goodwood. I really personally know about wood and if it's good or not. But there's a village, there's an area called Goodwood in Tobago, yes.
Oh,
yes.
Okay. That's where I'm from. Yeah. That's where I'm from.
I've driven through the area.
Yes. If you're heading to certain
certain places you have to pass through.
You have to pass, yes.
But Onika, I don't know if you realize it or not, and I only realized this today. You and I have been linked on Facebook since 2014.
Yes, I know.
We have been up, so you're sneaking up on me, man. I know you know me, and I don't really know you like that.
No. You just forgot that we've been connected since then. I didn't.
I see. So we're here tonight. Let me let you introduce yourself, please. Miss Onika Henry.
Okay.
Tell us who you are and what it is you do.
All right. So, hi, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world watching this. My name is Onika Henry. I am what you call an educational and clinical sexologist. And what that means is that I am a sex educator. I do training, design lesson plans, design curriculum around human sexuality. And the clinical part of it means that I work with individuals and couples around issues that they may be having with their sex lives. That is me in a nutshell. Interestingly, my background, my undergraduate degree is in theater arts with psychology. So my master's degree is a master's in sex.
I see. So I want to find out whether or not you're going to learning institutions and talk about sex. How is this done?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that is an option. When I first came back home to Tobago, I focused a lot on education. So a lot of my work would involve doing workshops with young people. I would do presentations at various institutions. And while doing that, I was continuing my training in the clinical aspect of sexuality. I've actually done like a mini tour, I guess you can call it, of schools in Tobago. There was a period of time when I just came back home that I was going from school to school, talking to parents and teachers at PTA meetings about what comprehensive sex education is about, just so that they understand when somebody says we are introducing sex ed into schools, this is what we're introducing your children to. And that's one way to get people to buy in and be comfortable with their children learning about sex outside of home. So that is part of the work. I also have I also have an office space out of which I operate, looking like any other helping professional. So persons would come in if they have issues or challenges in their sex life. So, for example, when it comes to men and challenges that they might be having, they'll come to me if the challenges are erectile dysfunction, early ejaculation, delayed ejaculation, any kind of trauma, sexual inhibitions, that kind of thing. And with women, painful sex, difficulty experiencing orgasm, dealing with trauma as well. And I also work with couples who are trying to negotiate their way into a better sex life, which might not be happening for them because one may have a different level of sexual desire. One may be recovering from trauma, and the partner needs to know, how do I work to help this person heal and recover? They may have different ideas about what good sex is, and so they need to figure that out as a couple. So that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg, I guess. There are a couple of things that I do as well as a clinical sexologist, but those are the more common issues that I work with.
Okay, so tonight we're here to discuss, as we title the show, sexual healing.
That's right. That's right.
Let me run some things off for here. Something you all might be familiar with this. Doing it. Brushing. Knocking boots. Grinding. Bullying. Screwing. Dugga. These are some of just the words, a few of the words and phrases that are used to describe sexual intercourse. Most of the previous generations had great difficulty using proper terms to describe body parts and sexual intercourse as a whole to their children, speaking about my parents and those before. As I've stated many times here on Caribbean Feedback, it was non-existent in my home as a child. You may have heard me speak about that one time I got hit with an entire tree, with a whole pigeon peach tree, for asking the question, where do babies come from? And my grandmother turned around and hit me with a dry pigeon peach tree. Bah! Go back inside. Fast forward 40 years, and sex education is now being taught in some classrooms across America, and now, as you informing us, in the Caribbean. I'm hoping, Onika, that tonight you could shed some light on this topic of conversation that is still considered taboo in many households.
And still taboo here in terms of it's not in schools as yet.
Most, if not all, of the education I received while growing up came from the streets, because there was no one within the home or even the extended family to enlighten me with any knowledge in this area. I learned from listening and from doing. Tell us, is there a good time, a right time, and if so, when? When is a good time to teach children about sex?
From the time they could talk, from the time they're able to communicate with you, and even before that, you begin with that foundation of sex education through how you care for, how you look after, how you show love, how you develop an intimate relationship with your child. So it's not a one talk. That talk with your child isn't the talk to have at a particular age. It is a series of conversations that you have with your child throughout their development. And those series of conversations, the content would change, the goals would change based on the developmental stage that they're going through. So there's not a talk. There are a series of conversations, which actually may never end, because even as an adult, there may still be that discussion that coming to their parents or guardians for advice, for feedback, for discussing challenges that they may be having. So there isn't one age. There's a developmental stage that we all go through. We are sexual from womb to tomb. And so the conversation continues.
I like that.
To tune.
Yes.
But let me dive right into this. Hold on, I didn't see you, Karin. You wanted to add something?
No, I was just wondering since we're starting out the conversation, can you get rid of the myth that a lot of people still have about what a sex therapist or a sexologist actually does with a client in office or behind closed doors?
Okay, so which one of the myths are you referring to?
The myths about you having hands-on, contact with your clients, and
isn't that what it's
there are
about?
quite a few myths, but let's get rid of.
Myth?
All right, so let me respond to that on two levels. There are different kinds of therapeutic work around sexuality. There is the talk-based therapeutic approach, which you would find most sex therapists would do, and most sex coaches and counselors. There is a branch of therapeutic work in sexuality called somatic sex ed, which I'm actually studying now. So I have some training in that does involve using body-based work, which includes touch. So there is the talk-based approach, which would look like any other helping professional who would talk to a client and walk them through a change of mindset and give them a different view of things, go through particular kinds of exercises, but that is restricted or limited to verbal communication. And then there is the body-based approach, which includes teaching your client about breathing techniques, helping them to get to know their bodies, using movement, as well as using touch. So touch is included. And then there is the controversial, very edgy therapeutic approach, which does include what we call, what's the term? Sexual surrogates. And sexual surrogates work under the guidance of a sex therapist, and they may actually have intercourse with their clients, but only under the direction of a sex therapist. That is very rare, meaning there are not a lot of sexual surrogates in the world, but there is a body that governs how they're trained and the ethics. A sex surrogate may not necessarily have sex with a client, but that is part of what they are allowed to do. And there's specific ways of developing that sexual contact. And in fact, you will find that there are in some countries around the world, governments have used sexual surrogates to work with, like for example, there's soldiers who need to be, who are going through PTSD or who are recovering from injuries from war, and to get them rehabilitated, so to speak, into the sexual aspect of their lives, they would use sexual surrogates.
So coming to your office, there's no happy ending. Yes.
That depends on what you consider to be a happy ending. What do you mean by a happy ending?
Come on, you go to massage parlors and there's a massage, and then there's a massage, right? Well, there's a massage where you walk out and you say, ooh, and there's a massage where you walk out and you say, ooh. So when you talk about these surrogates and all of these, I'm trying to figure out if an individual has a problem that they expressed and they come to an office and spend their money. How are they so sure that any of the techniques that they are being taught is working if there is no conclusion to this lesson that you're teaching? Not you per se, but the surrogate.
The surrogate. So sexual surrogates, as I said, they work under the guidance of a therapist. So they're like the technician who would carry out instructions from the expert. And so there are specific goals, if you want to call, there's specific goals or outcomes for this person's therapeutic journey. One of the goals may be to become comfortable with intercourse and no longer experience a traumatic response. So and you are measuring that. And so if your client after a few sessions is able to do that, then you've accomplished your goal. That is a happy ending. So your happy ending may be a long-term happy ending after a few sessions with getting there. And then you may have the micro goals, I guess is what I could describe it as, your mini goals that lead up to the major goal. So maybe today's session, we're just going to get you to spend 30 minutes in a particular activity that's maybe non-penetrative sex. And if you can manage 30 minutes without going into a trauma response, great, we've achieved that outcome. Maybe next week, we want to spend the same 30 minutes, but this time we want to decrease even further your traumatic response. And maybe by the third session, you no longer have a traumatic response. And so we can do this particular sexual activity well for 30 minutes. And then you may decide, well, okay, we need to expand the activities that we are doing in this 30 minutes or the time. And let's see if you're able to not just tolerate that, but to enjoy it. And so depending on your client's goals or your patient's goals, you're measuring it against that. So, when I asked what you mean by a happy ending, you really did need to be clear. So if your happy ending is I've come to achieve orgasm today, and not even achieve. No, I don't like to use that word when it comes to orgasm. Experience orgasm. I want to experience orgasm today in my visit. All right. So how are we going to do that? What's the approach we're going to take today? What kind of touch do you want? What kind of massage are you looking for? What is your goal in the process? And if at the end of our session together, you were able to experience that goal, well, all right, we got a happy ending. Maybe you don't experience orgasm on that particular day, but you still have a happy ending because you enjoyed the process. You enjoyed the experience of being with that particular person on that day.
And where's the number again? Go ahead, Karin. You want to say
in your practice, do you have you found most clients' problems to be mental or physical in your particular practice?
Right. That is, I'm not sure that I can separate the two. And here's what I mean. If a client comes to me and they have an issue with the mental aspect of sex, because when I'm assessing a client, I assess the mental aspect of sex, the emotional aspect of sex, the physical or body-based aspect of sex, energetic or the energetic aspect of sex, and the spiritual aspect of sex. Yeah, all of those integrate and impact on each other. But if you come in and you have, and your blockage, and most of your blockage is happening from the mental aspect of sex, it is going to affect the other areas. So for example, if you have a particular belief about a certain kind of sexual activity, and so your brain is like completely turned off, or you are inhibited because of the messages you've had from childhood, you may find, as like, for example, a woman, your vagina will probably shut down, because you've internalized these messages or these belief systems within your body. And so you may come to me thinking it's a physical problem. My vagina is broken, things not working down there. When in fact, it may be that we have to address your beliefs and your attitudes.
I'm Jamaican, so the vagina being broken, every Jamaican song that I've ever heard that even addresses that, it can't broke. It can't broke. But anyway, that's a separate conversation. I guess what I meant was, when you're starting therapy as a clinician, you have to, okay, as you said, go through a whole process of assessing mental versus, but in the end, are most of your clients really having like diabetics with poor circulatory systems? Is it turning out more that it's an emotional mental issue versus something that needs to be treated, and then the mindset will sort of follow? You know what I mean?
Right. Okay.
Is it turning out to be more of a physical medical issue with most people that come in? No, it's more mental.
Okay. It is definitely more mental and emotional.
Okay.
And they usually come to me after they've tried to solve it at that level. So they might have visited their physician.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Done the checkup, done blood tests or whatever, and still got the medication even, and still have not resolved the issue. So a lot of times, and I guess part of the challenge, at least in my particular case, is working on my marketing so people actually know that I exist and so more people know that I exist and they know what I do. I am usually the last
resort.
Yes, I'm usually the last resort. And so a lot of times by the time they come to me or find out or realize that I exist, the problem has really gone so far that it begins to threaten their relationship, if there's a marriage or there's a long-term relationship, or it begins to affect even more of their mental health in terms of their self-esteem and feeling depressed and that kind.
Definitely. Are men open to being diagnosed with, I've not found a lot of West Indian or Caribbean men to be open to having the discussion, certainly not with a woman. So how is it with you and your practice?
Yes, it is the same. It is the same.
Difficult population.
Yes, it is.
Present company included. Difficult population.
What I find happens is that so a lot of people who reach out to me would be women, and the women who I have like a free consultation before, so I could assess whether I'm actually a good fit, whether I'm the one you should be seeing, or whether you probably need to go to a psychologist or psychiatrist first, or whether you just need to go to a doctor first before you come to me. So I do a 15-minute consultation before.
Or just try a different man.
Right. And when I chat with these women, what I realize is that she's not the problem. But she's coming to me hoping she can figure out how to solve
approach him.
Yes, with the partner, because he ain't come in. And even in situations where I have had couples come and they're in front of me, and I'm giving each person a chance to share why they're here and share their goals. The man will be, me and I, she bring me.
I am ashamed to say. I'm ashamed to say that years ago I dated someone briefly who was, the term early pre-ejaculator doesn't even cover the speediness of things. And I remember thinking the first time nervousness, the second time I'm thinking, oh no, we can't go any further. We have to bring this to an end.
Right.
Because that was not going to work for me at all. In hindsight, I could have handled it differently. But at the time, that's how I handled it.
Understood.
And I know that there are women who can. I don't know about the women in this chat room. Nobody's speaking up yet. They're all like sitting back. Yes, Karen, sure. But I mean, really, I look back and I'm thinking, wow, I could have handled that differently. But at the time, I was like, oh no, we weren't serious. We'd seen each other like 2-3 times or something. Like what in the world?
So are you more patient now, or what? Like you're more patient now with the issue if it arises?
A little bit. A little more. I'll talk about it. I would talk, but I did talk to him the first time. I did, and he didn't seem open to getting it checked medically. Because I did think he was young enough to say something else.
Yeah.
High stress job. So I don't know. But it could have been stress, or it could have been something physical. And he wasn't open to checking it.
She talking about a talk stage. Her comment might have been, what the hell? That might have been the conversation she had. She stand up here right now and say she talked. That might have been the conversation. What the hell is this?
No, well, I can't swear to it. I can't swear to it.
So before
I was very impatient when I was younger.
Before we run a tangent, I'm just happy to say, welcome tonight on my end here. I've been very quiet. I had to get, we had to get the preliminaries in.
What's going on with the chat? There's Andrea. Okay, Andrea. Chime in, Andrea.
The version of Onika I know is the theatrical Onika, when I did a short stint at Ministry of No, is it ministry? No, division.
Community development and culture at the time.
Culture in Tobago.
Yes.
And I get tied up with ministry and division. I need to really understand the difference between.
No real difference. Ministry is national, division is Tobago.
Oh, okay, all right. So
hey, but here now, before we go too far, on piggybacking off the last conversation,
Andrea Mervin.
We have. If you all could see the twist in that comment there.
Which comment is this?
The man say he was a dunce. He never came first.
Good one, Movin. Good one.
Anyway, okay. but anyway,
go ahead, Sam. Finish up on that.
I just want to. Okay, so in terms of the practice, what would you consider your average age group of folks that will come, that will end up by you, and what you think your rate of success would be, or like based on the last maybe 2-3 years, what would that look like?
It's a good question. I'm trying to figure out how am I measuring that, and that's difficult to measure just because. Well, let me put it this way. I would need to separate my work in education and those types of interventions compared to clinical work. I've had a lot more people who I've worked with in terms of sex education compared to working with people in the clinical aspect.
Okay.
Because people are still a bit hesitant to.
I mean, it's a touchy subject.
So people are a little bit hesitant, and I have not been very good at following up with people when after they've seen me 2 or 3 times, I don't really follow up if I haven't seen a client for a while, except I just reach a hey, how are you going? How are things? And that's not been a good thing in terms of my keeping track of how I'm doing. But the feedback I've gotten from other persons, meaning my clients wouldn't directly say to me what's been happening. Apparently it's good enough so that they refer other people and they say, my friend told me that, she came to you and she did this and like was wow. And I'm thinking, but why didn't I tell him, Mel? Like, I need to know.
Yeah, because you're an authority of the area, and it's somewhat it's like I think to some people, the fact that we many of us grew up where it was a taboo subject in the first place, so that so there's this sort of a kind of hushy feel around it. You're not sure if you're comfortable to speak about it. And I think the fact that we couldn't even have it in the show, which is something that, as you said, it needs to be a series of conversations.
Yes.
Especially with the next generation coming up, because most of us got as Curtis said, most of us got our information second hand and third hand and fourth hand and fifth hand.
But I do.
Parent didn't go ahead.
I do want to, because I want to finish. Respond to the question. What I have recognized is that sometimes that 15-minute consultation, in which I'm asking certain questions, gets people thinking differently, and it gives them permission to approach their sexuality in a different way. And so sometimes that 15-minute consultation has been enough to make people start doing things better or doing things differently and thinking differently. And that continues along a really positive outcome. I mean, I've had clients, who I've followed up on, and they say, listen, girl, you just really inspire me. And that same night, I and my husband or I and my wife do whatever, and we've just been good. And so sometimes it just takes that 15 minutes of asking particular kinds of questions, of giving permission to rethink and to reframe how they think about sexuality. And that's it. also interestingly been hired. I've been asked, as in people reached out to me from religious groups, and that's a community that I deliberately stayed away from when I just came back home, because I simply didn't feel that I had the temperament to deal with the challenges that come from a religious community. But they reached out, and I have been invited to do, on more than one occasion actually, a presentation on pornography in church, as in with pastors, with lay ministers. There was one particular workshop that I had. What's the name of this group, boy? And I think I saved the feedback for that on my Instagram page. So that's something I can actually search and look for. But they invited me to come onto they also have a campus in Maracas in Trinidad. And they invited me to come in.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right. They invited me to come in. No, not USC.
Okay.
Yeah, and it might not have been Maracas. It's like further up. Where is that, boy? Santa Cruz? I think it was Santa Cruz. Anyway, and I went into that workshop concerned because I wasn't going to water down my presentation on pornography for them. I even had like 2 little clips, video clips, and some lesson, and some photographs that we went through, and there were I think there were 5 pastors in that training. It was a workshop because they wanted to know how do we deal with this problem. There's a problem that's coming up in the church, and we need an expert to help us figure out how do we address this problem with couples and how do we address it with young people. So it really was a training session for the weekend. And
I'm not sure I understand. What exactly was the problem that they identified to reach out?
And that's the interesting thing. They didn't identify what the problem was. They didn't say that we have a number of young people who are using porn and their parents are complaining. They didn't say that we have wives complaining that husbands are looking at porn and ignoring them. They didn't identify the specific problem.
The pastors.
Yes. And so what I did was I put together
for their congregation, but
yes. So what I did,
I need help for a friend. I got you.
That kind of thing. Yeah. And so what I did was I put together a program to address all of that. So there was part of the training was porn literacy, which was focused on the youth and young people. How do you deal with that? And then the other part of the training was how do you intervene or help couples and guide them through if there's an issue of pornography, watching too much pornography in that group. And so your girl went in with the presentation, and we're going through pictures and discerning the difference between what's considered erotic art and what's considered pornography, and et cetera, and show them a little clip. The catch was in this clip, in this porn clip, the performers were senior citizens. They were over 60. So anyway, so there's a mix of media that's being presented to them, and before. I think we were only like a quarter way through the training program. Everybody was, okay, Miss Henry, stop. We get it. So what is good porn and where can we find it?
It's all quite subjective, isn't it? That's very subjective.
Sam, put up that comment there for Rebecca for me, please.
And this is coming from the lay people, from the lay ministers. Yes, it is a plot twist. And so the process that I went through in terms of talking about a definition of pornography, and then showing them different kinds of porn, because there is a genre, if you want to call it, of sexually explicit material that we refer to as ethical porn or feminist porn. And so when you contrast that kind of sexually explicit material to what is mainstream, there is a stark difference in terms of the content, in terms of what you're seeing happening with the performers. And things got a little
What?
Well, I guess that's one word to use, yes. When one of the congregation members says, so we could do our own porn. Listen, you will have that conversation after I leave with your membership. I can't answer that for you.
So let me ask you something, Onika.
But I'm saying that to say there's a way of teaching about sexuality that gets people to be less hyped, less fearful, and less concerned about viewing two people engaging in sex.
Was this a paid consultation by the church?
Oh, most definitely. Yes, I was paid. I was hired.
I wonder how they listed that in the books.
I said, no, but hold on. So first, of course, to be transparent and to be open, I did an outline and I did my goals and objectives, and I sent that before we made the final agreement to hire, to pay, to say, this is what I'm going to be presenting. Is this going to address your issues? Is this acceptable? And they were like, yeah, we're on. And I was like, okay. And of course, I was still concerned on my way there. But what was nice is that they had a mix of age groups. So you had the young people, like in their early 20s, and then you had senior leadership in the church. And of course, we still had the debates. We still had the concerns. And then we did a couple of practice sessions of how you talk to a couple. No. Practice session. Talking to couples or talking to young people about porn use and why porn is problematic and how it can be problematic and how you can find porn that's not problematic.
Onika, what I'd like to find out though, this isolation, as we speak about the religious sector, like priests and Catholic priests who live this quote unquote pious life. Does isolation in itself lead to compulsive sexual behavior disorder, leading people to get into porn and some kind of inability to lead a normal life, quote unquote normal life?
So when you start using terms like compulsion, and some people may use the other term addiction, that has nothing to do with isolation or sex. That is a mental health issue that manifests itself in an abuse or misuse of sex. And so what you have to do is address that mental health issue that is driving the person. So any kind of compulsion or addiction, it's not the item itself. It is what has happened to that person in their life that is driving them towards using a particular substance or involved in a particular kind of behavior, because that substance or that behavior is giving them a high that fills a void or is filling a gap in their life.
Okay. Do you believe all sexual behavior can be unlearned?
So I believe that theoretically, meaning the brain is plastic. There's a term that we use in the mental field, neuroplasticity. Yeah, the ability for you to change habits, change behavior, change patterns so that you develop new neural pathways in your brain. And therefore you are able to unlearn or learn new things that make the old things obsolete. Yeah. So it is possible. It may be more difficult for some people than others. Some may need more support than others, that behavior change to happen. But let me get back to that issue of isolation that Curtis brought up. One of the things that isolation does, especially if it's isolation that has you bored and therefore you're looking for things to do, you're trying to find a way to distract yourself, you're trying to find a way to entertain yourself. Well, you will find that, porn use can increase for people who are in isolation, particularly if they have always had a high sexual desire. So one of the things that we noticed during the pandemic, in the lockdown, is that the use of porn, just kind of went through the roof. A lot of people were beginning to look at porn. In fact, Pornhub was, talking about it, and they were making advertisements to address this huge increase. Sex toy suppliers, huge increase in the sales of sex toys.
I want to put something on the table, though. I want to put something on the table. Not literally, but let us. I want to bring in this topic about masturbation. Let's talk for a minute about that. The taboo surrounding it versus its importance. And right. I want Dr. Judith to jump in on this conversation also. No?
Oh my!
That conversation is very taboo, where children, adults, everybody concerned within the religious institution also. I want to introduce that into the conversation, the importance or lack thereof of masturbation.
Okay, so let me put this context. For those of us in sexuality, masturbation is a training tool. And let me give an example. So if a male client comes in and he has issues with early ejaculation, also known as premature ejaculation, but we don't use that term, is kind of pejorative. And so we don't use that term. We say early ejaculation. A lot of times early ejaculation is linked to particular masturbation styles that boys develop when they're younger, especially if they're in a home or a space where it is a taboo thing, or there's shame surrounding it, and so they've trained themselves literally to come quickly, or they have to hide and do it quick, or they're in the bathroom and so they have to do it quick in the bathroom, because if you stay in a bathroom too long, why are you in there so long? And so what they have literally done is trained their body to respond a particular way. Just athlete would work out the particular muscles, and they're training their bodies to perform particular acts. That solo pleasure period during adolescence, if that wasn't taught, if it wasn't embraced, if they didn't have room to do that and really explore their bodies that way, doing it quickly and getting into that habit means that when they finally meet a partner, it may be difficult to sustain an erection for a long period of time. And so if you have to unlearn that, it means retraining your body to respond to stimuli in a particular kind of way. Am I making sense? And so there are a series of different kinds of solo pleasure, and I prefer that term to masturbation, solo pleasure or self-pleasure exercises that we give men to use, so that they begin to build up the tolerance for sexual stimulation, and that they begin to find a variety of ways in which they can experience pleasure, and over time they now are able to sustain for long.
Why did you just put it on? Why did you just put this on the men? Women partake in that also. And what you spoke about in terms of early experiences, what I have noticed in my own evaluation and observation of this situation, those early experiences sometimes lead to a lifetime of poor behavior poor behavior, where you have women who they sub-vocalize everything. They don't know how to express themselves, because in the early days, somebody was in the living room, somebody was in the next room, somebody could have always heard them. So they never expressed themselves in terms of screaming or pleasure. So everything is done in here.
Right. So hold up. I didn't put anything on men. You asked me about the importance of masturbation. So I gave you an example.
But you talk about men. You just said men.
Because I gave that example.
Take some blame, take some blame.
It's not about blame. It's not about blame. I simply use that because it's the most obvious example to show how important teaching on masturbation coaching, which is something we do in somatic sex education, just to show how important masturbation coaching is. I can also talk about how important solar pleasure is for women, particularly because our genitals are internal. You know, boys are going to discover their pleasure a little bit earlier because their genitals are external. For women, it's going to take a little bit more work. And yes, it is very important for women to learn and understand their bodies. In fact, the challenge with women who have had a particular upbringing that has made them uncomfortable with their own bodies means that they're unable to ask for what they want, or they don't even know what they want. And that makes it difficult for their partners to pleasure them, or even know if they're being pleasured correctly, because they're not even saying anything. And then, I mean, there are quite a few women who come to me who don't look at their genitals, like they've never taken a mirror and looked at it. And I would say to women like that, so you've had all these male partners who could describe your pussy and you can't? Like, so really? So men could be out there describing what you have, and you can't say, well, yes, that is true, or no, that is not true, because you haven't looked. So you have not even taken ownership of what is yours. And there are women who, hold on, let me finish. And there are women who because of trauma, can't go there, who would literally tell you that they are afraid of their vagina. Those are the exact words from different women, different times in their life, different walks of life, but have all experienced trauma. They will tell you, I'm afraid of it. And so there's a way that we work with the body to release the trauma that's stored in their body and stored in their tissues because of trauma. So yes, your turn. Over to you.
No, I just wanted to bring in the element of religious upbringing or church upbringing. Some institutions, they imply that it's a sinful act or that it's wrong. So it could be part of the trauma that the person has to deal with when now they eventually have a partner, or even the fact that they don't even want to look. You know, if you're conditioned mentally a certain way that this is a sinful thing, or the church or the whatever, you could be afraid unnecessarily.
Yes.
And so even with what we were talking just before we got to this part, you have the church and you have the ministers who would have to deal with these things. They're not really trained for this either. But I mean, I'm sure if a pastor or a priest had to tell you the type of things that they had to deal with. So I'm very, very sure whatever you came with was going to be beneficial, because it was just sort of like a wide area of things that they have to deal with. And then you have the ones that, you have the Bible and you have science. So you have these two extreme things, and one end is the Lord, thus said the Lord, and you had to catch with the rest. And then the people who believe in science, they're looking at them like, well, you're evolutionists over here, we believe in the world. So that dynamic, I think, is also playing a major, major role in your job, which I'm very sure.
Can I?
So yes, go ahead.
When we talk on this side of the hemisphere, when we talk about trauma on this side of the hemisphere, we're talking usually about rape or incest or something like that. But for a lot of women who come from different countries on the continent of Africa, we're talking mostly, not mostly, a lot about female genital mutilation. Have you dealt with that population? And even if you haven't, do you know how that is dealt with? Is it dealt with any differently than an actual sexual assault per se?
Right. So I have never dealt with any clients. Because this, I'm not going to come across those persons really in my part of the world. What I am aware of, though, that just like any other trauma in which there is violence upon the body, the techniques, the process, they're more or less the same. Meaning what you are. So let me give a definition of trauma that can cover, I guess, a multitude of sins. Trauma at its most basic is too much too soon. So too much too soon, too fast, or too little for too long. So you can see based on that a whole number of things can be traumatic. Trauma doesn't exist necessarily in the mind. It exists in the mind-body connection. It exists in our nervous system. Yeah. And so part of the process of facing trauma is working directly with what happens in your body when you are triggered, and what happens when you are touched, and helping your body to relearn that certain touches are safe, or that you are safe with this person. Because even when somebody has gone to a psychologist or a mental health person for any kind of trauma on the body, and they have accepted it, so mentally, okay, I've accepted this has happened to me, I'm now in a loving, safe relationship, and I really love this person, and I really want to be sexual with that person. When it gets down to brass tacks, when the rubber hits the road and they're trying to engage in sexual activities, the body goes into that PTSD still. Because it's not about just what they believed or what they thought. They've worked that through with the talk therapy. You now have to go into the body system and reset your nervous system. Yeah, I hope
allow me to bring in Dr. Judith into this part of the argument.
And remind me to respond to sex and religion, and how I have dealt with it. At least in my experience so far. But yes, go ahead.
Okay, I want to bring Dr. Judith in on the conversation here for a second. How can or how does an individual recover from sexual violations like rape and move on with some sense of normalcy in subsequent relationships? The long-term trauma, as we were discussing that, how is that dealt with in your field?
Well, as Ms. Henry said earlier about, I do a lot of cognitive work. And so for me, in what I do and what I have done, I try to get to the person up here first. Let's talk about what happened. Because if people are not willing to talk about something, you can't do anything for them. They're not open. So if you can get somebody to talk about what happened, to any degree, then you can start, as she said, and I have to give, I love the way you express yourself, and the terms that you use. It's just well put forward, and I appreciate that, Ms. Henry. The fact is that if you can engage somebody in talking, because like we did denial and avoidance, most people will deny that anything traumatic happened to them. They'll avoid getting into conversation because the memory is still painful. So hopefully we get somebody who is saying, I had something traumatic happen to me. They might not use that word, but I have something that happened to me that has scarred me. It has marred me. I don't think the way I used to think anymore because of that incident. Then you have somebody who's at least partially available to discuss what has gone on. Once you do that, then you can once you get into the cognitive and the admit it and all the rest, then you can start doing, even as Ms. Henry said, you can start doing exercises with people. You can train them to unlearn, because all PTSD and all of that trauma is fear-based. Most of this stuff is fear-based. I remember what happened. So even though I'm in a loving, wonderful relationship right now, as soon as I get really close to my partner and things feel really well, that stinking stuff comes back and reminds me of how bad that was. But it can be unlearned, but it's a process. And not everybody is really, I would say they're not. Time is a difficult thing for people when they've been traumatized. Time is powerful and it's painful. And you have to have them committed to do this work, because it's going to take, it takes a while to get there. So it's going to take some time to get from there. So all that can be done. And obviously from what Ms. Henry is saying, she has done work with people. You know, I need to say this before I forget. What you said earlier about masturbation is that one of the things that I remember telling this young man, I said, listen, it's one thing about physically masturbating. For me, is what's the motive? Is it just that your libido is high? Is it because you brushed against some fabric and you got an erection? People have to learn that sex starts up here. A lot of people don't think that. They think it starts in the vagina or the penis. That's not where it starts. It starts somewhere up here, then it goes down and travels from there, and then things happen. But I said to him, one of the concerns that I have with him and masturbation is that if you do it so much in your teenage years, other than the other things that Ms. Henry spoke about, is that you will be so out of touch with a partner because the pleasure is all about you. And that's one of the reasons why men have premature, and you say you don't want to use that word, early ejaculation, is because they're bent on their pleasure because of years of masturbation. If all I've ever had to be concerned is about how I feel and it's coming down, I'm going to come now. If that's all you've been used to being concerned with, that's all you're going to continue. So you have to, first of all, say to them, listen, you can't have a successful relationship with another person if all you're focused on is your pleasure. So there are things that they have to unlearn and then learn to say, it's not just about me, it's about the person that I'm with. And it's very hard to teach people to delay pleasure, but those things can be taught. I mean, you can do cognitive things with people where they'll start, you literally tell them at what point you teach them to withdraw. I mean, they might not be physically doing it, as she said, when they have exercises, but you teach them, you get this close to an ejaculation and you stop. You delay the pleasure because your concern is not just for your pleasure, it's for your partner's pleasure. So when you delay, then you, in a sense, you give the partner to catch up. So does that answer anything that you asked?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I just wanted because I know you deal more on the mental side of things in terms of counseling. So I wanted to hear your input on that particular.
I've worked with people, not a lot, but I've worked with people with sexual in marriages, and most of it comes from the place of if you do this, especially masturbation, if you engage in it for a long period of time, you have things that you do when you're masturbating and that you say that you're not sure you can say to a partner. So there's a lot of stuff, if you get into a relationship, there's a lot of stuff that has to be undone so that you can be in a successful relationship. And remember, everything, whether the word normal, successful, all these things have different meanings to different people. Some people can have a little bit of sex and they're like, hey. And some other people, because of the needs of their libido, they want more. They need more than the person. A couple of times, I'm satisfied. That will last me for a while. And some other people have to keep going because, and when people masturbate a lot, and then they go into marriage, some of them their partner might find them masturbating because they will probably tell you they get more pleasure out of masturbating. Why? You have to get into all of that. Why would you find more pleasure out of masturbating? Maybe because you know your own erogenous zones better than your partner. But you got to tell your partner what the erogenous zones are. So
allow me to discuss hypersexuality for a minute. Nymphomania. This uncontrollable, excessive desire, sexual desire in a woman. Can a man be considered a nymphomaniac? Or is there some other term that's used for men?
Miss Henry.
Yes.
I mean, I can answer, but go ahead.
Oh, well, no, you go first, and I'll support.
No, listen, and I cannot tell you right now. I cannot tell you this moment if there's another term for it. But men can be just as like it has to do with the libido. But sometimes the libido, something else that Miss Henry said earlier. What happens to a lot of us when we are very young? It depends on who writes it. I say it's a clean slate. We start out with a clean slate. It depends on who writes on it first. If somebody writes crazy on there, and I'm using that word loosely right now, if somebody writes say, incestuous behaviors, molestation. If somebody writes on your slate that stuff, that's what you're going to kind of pursue, because that's the first thing you read on your slate. That's the first thing that you came into contact with. So if a young man or woman, they're into all this sexual behaviors, masturbation, all this stuff, and you can do it a lot and still not be highly sexed. I think sometimes people just do it because they're bored. You know, they have various reasons like this, and now with the COVID, they have all sort of reasons why people are doing what they're doing. But I think hypersexuality can exist in male or female, and it does. And whether it's nymphomaniac, what they call it, usually it's a woman that they use that word for. But the truth is that I think there's some besides a physical need that they sense or they feel, there's something going on up here, where it starts anyway. There's some lack. There's some control issues. There's something that somebody needs to prove. Something is going on. Why? Because the sexual, let me tell you something, and the sexual expression is such a powerful thing. And if people really ever stopped and looked at it, they probably wouldn't do it for long periods of time. And I think there's some men who are scared to death of the vagina because they think that it's going to suck them in and they're going to lose control. And listen, I'm just telling you from my experience with So what I'm saying, though, is that if people ever really realize what the sexual act is about, besides procreation, it is one of the most powerful acts that we can ever engage in. And what we do, we take it and we make it less than, we weaken it, and we water it down. But I think that, like you said, I think people are afraid of true intimacy. And sex with somebody is not necessarily intimacy. Exploring each other, getting to know each other, all that stuff, that's part of intimacy. But men are just as, they have the same issues as women with this hypersexuality, but for different reasons usually. And some of them do it as a result of being abused also.
Feel free to jump in anytime, Onika.
Right. So that's a term I have not heard in many years. It's not a term that we use.
I know. DSM doesn't use it anymore.
Yeah, because it's a very judgmental term, and the fact that there isn't an equivalent for men is also very telling about the gender bias that exists when it comes to women who are sexually open or just as sexually active as men. So right. I don't even use the term, like it has no value in my space. Let me put it that way.
I don't think we match that appetite there, though.
Who, we men?
Men, I don't think we match that appetite.
Well, I can't respond to that except to say that based on what I know in the field, and we use the term compulsive sexual behavior. I think that is what's in the international. Is the ISD, I think, which is the international version of the DSM in the US.
Okay.
But there is obsessive compulsive sexual behavior. Most people, or at least people who go for treatment for that, are men, not women. And most people who go for that treatment are usually middle class or privileged white men. And so there is a sense of connecting a toxic masculinity and a sense of entitlement that kind of feeds into that compulsive behavior. So that's what I know in the field in terms of who usually presents with an obsessive compulsive sexual behavior. Some people with sex addiction.
Let me ask you this, Onika. The fact of who presents with these issues, isn't it historically that women will not present for sexual issues? I mean, they might present for their sexual bodies need some kind of surgery or X-ray or something's going on dysfunctional physically, but isn't it still to some degree taboo for a woman to say, I have such great sexual urges, and I want to find out what it is, why I feel this way? So more than likely in our society continues with that male, and I'm not bashing anybody. I'm just simply saying it continues. That is the man that would present and say, hey, listen, I mean, because usually a man presents because it's affecting his work, it's affecting his marriage, it's affecting his family life, and he's losing control. You know, I often say to people, that's amazing. You can have a man who has a business and is very successful financially and everything. And what will bring him down usually is some sexual peccadillo, no pun intended, Curtis.
Misdemeanor.
Yes, some sexual issue that will bring him to his knees, that will cause him to fail.
I read something some time ago where it said that men say they love a woman who love plenty sex until they meet a woman who loves plenty sex.
I agree with that.
And then you realize what plenty sex is about. I came across an individual one time. This was a Caucasian gentleman, much younger than me. And he literally almost came to tears telling me about his particular situation that he was involved in. And in order for him to get out of it, you know what he was going to do? Leave the state. I mean, just go ghost on this particular girl, because he knew that there was nothing he can do to get out of the relationship, because she would come behind him for more. When he, even at a 30-something years old, he took enhancement drugs, the Viagra and the Cialis and whatever else they had out there, in order to satisfy this partner of his in his same age bracket. And after coming over on a Friday night and putting down 2.5, 3 hours worth of work, and he beat his chest and say, yeah, I'm good. By the time he woke up the next morning, she's on top of him again. So, okay, he was able to squeeze another one out. She invited him to come back the night to watch a movie, Netflix and chill. And then there she go again. She wants more sex. And he's said he's sitting there, he's laying there battered and bruised. And she's just she wants more. She wants more. What is this big expectations that you all put upon men? I'm saying you all as a species put upon men that
species
to just
I thought we were all the same species, but I could be mistaken.
Yeah, because that is something else. That there is something else.
That sounds like a very unique situation.
Listen. Historically, a man and a woman can have sex. Now, this is my version. This is my thought on it, and I've seen it many times. A man and woman can have sex, and it's been great. It's wonderful, and everything is over. And the man goes off to sleep, snoring, knocked out, and the woman gets up and she can clean the whole house. She doesn't miss a beat, and he's still warned.
Because there's no refractory period.
Remember, you guys give out.
There's no refractory period for women.
And we receive. I'm sorry. What did you say, Karen?
There is no refractory period for women. Our bodies don't.
Exactly. So in a sense, it's like we're always ready to go. But that again depends on the mindset. It depends on what's going on with the woman. And she could be like a man. She could be trying to prove something too. I mean, because everybody's got different reasons why they do what they do. And I don't think that's necessarily healthy to be always, but that might be healthy for her, or she might think it's healthy, but she might be overcompensating for something.
I have a question that has long interested me, and I have never really heard a proper explanation. So forgive me for the way I ask it, but there's some people in some countries that seem to be fascinated by and supportive of rape tapes or rape porn. I've never quite understood it. Can either one of you, Dr. Judith or Miss Henry, help me to understand that better? What is this fascination with rape tapes or rape porn in certain countries?
Control issues.
Predominant in certain countries, but I'm not going to name the countries. I just want to understand the thinking behind that.
So I can't respond to that because I have not done any research in terms of the culture that may be producing a lot of interest in that way. What I can say is this though. Rape is a power issue. You know, it's really not about sex.
Understood.
It's not about sex. And so if you have situations where or societies in which men feel the need to reassert themselves as the dominant one, as the one in control, you'll find that a lot of their fantasies in and out of the bedroom is going to reflect that control and power over women. So in my mind, those rape fantasies or rape porn is simply an extension of men saying, we are entitled, we are in control, and you are submissive to us. And it shows up in the sex as well as it will show up in other areas in life.
I think in addition to that, I think also, and I mean, totally agree, it's a power issue, dominance, but also I think that that to some degree, whichever culture it might be, men feel inferior to women when it comes to the sexual behavior, the sexual act, because of that refractory period, like what you spoke about. Men know that they know that they have to start over again and they have to build up again. And I also feel, and I've felt this for years, that a lot of men, especially men who claim to love women so much, that they have a deep resentment of women. And I think that's how some people end up being raping people. There's an anger there. There are issues from childhood. Could be mother issues. Could be a lot of things that happen. Why? But I think besides the obvious power play, is that men feel on the sexual level they cannot keep up, lack of a better term, with a woman. And so they'll say that's why when they have a woman who constantly wants sex, they'd rather be the one that always wants it or always says they want it. But that's why I think men do not feel very powerful around women, especially with the sex act.
Right.
Miss Henry, hold on one second, guys. I know Onika has to leave. So what I want for you to do is to piggyback off of that conversation and give us your closing remarks on the whole sex and sexuality thing and sexual healing. What can we do as individuals to heal from our own biases and whatever trauma we may be going through? And tell us where we can find you on social media and how people can contact you at your office or whatever the case might be. I know you have to leave.
Okay. Right. So there are a couple of things that I want to touch on that for me are kind of left hanging in the conversation. So let me close off on those things that for me kind of feel like they're hanging, and then I'll talk about where you can find me on social media. So finishing off this last topic in terms of men and that sense of feeling inferior, and also tied into having better sex and healing around sexuality. There is the key, or one of the keys to resolving that issue and that power play and that sense of some men feeling that they might be inferior to women when it comes to sexuality and the ability to have multiple episodes of sex in one day. It really is lack of information about how the body works and the belief that sex always has to be penetrative sex. Here's why I can say that. Men are also capable of multiple orgasms because ejaculation and orgasms are two different events that can be separated. In other words, a man can learn how to experience orgasm without ejaculating, keep going, don't ejaculate, keep going, and then choose when he wants to ejaculate.
Yes, ma'am.
In order to learn that, it includes solo pleasure, or quote-unquote masturbation techniques in a disciplined way with specific breathing techniques, but it is possible. There are videos that teach, and there are ways to do it.
Yeah.
And so in cultures that see sex as medicine or pleasure as medicine, teaching the man how to manage his sexual energy so that he can match the female partner, if he has a female partner, is considered important for spiritual reasons. Yeah. And in those cultures, you don't have that kind of problem where men feel that they need to have power over, because it is not power over, it is power with. And we come together to heal each other through a particular way of having with each other.
Serious stuff.
It doesn't always have to be penetrative sex.
Yes.
In those cultures, men who practice semen retention, which is what leads to multiple orgasms in men, what they believe is that because the men are not giving out or putting out, it retains your youthfulness for longer. And so the older you get, the less you should ejaculate, but the more you can orgasm. So that is one. I wanted to put that, right?
Love that.
That's one.
That's power.
That's true power. You're dropping some gems here. That's
true power. That's true power.
It is.
Tell us the difference. Tell us the difference, Onika, between an orgasm and ejaculation. You're using the two words and you're separating them in terms of definition. But tell us what the differences are.
So orgasm, in its simplest definition, is a release of a buildup of sexual energy. Yeah? So you build up the sexual energy, you build up this pleasure, and then you feel a sense of release. You've let that go. But you can do that without semen coming out of the penis. Yeah?
And you teach this?
Yes. So, and you can do a Google search for semen retention. You know, that's the maybe the scientific or the medical term, but it comes out of there are cultures around the world who may have different names for it because it's part of their cultural or spiritual practice. They literally, just as how you would train a child in terms of manners and how to put on their clothes and what to eat, whatever. Sexuality is not separate or a taboo thing we hide and talk about it. It's part of your overall development for your health and well-being. So they teach these things from the time the children are going into puberty. So I needed to say that to close off that discussion. And then I want to go back to responding to Sam's comment on religious issues when it comes to sex and Bible versus science. One of the things I had to do, because I came back to a conservative society, to a religious and conservative society, is to educate myself and find ways to address what the Bible says. And I did that. So I did a particular training, but I did part one of it. Part two is coming up later on this year in sex and faith, where I did the theology of what people would use from the Bible. And so I went through this training with some theologians, looked at where people take scriptures out of context, give you the inaccurate or incomplete meaning, or choose one meaning from multiple meanings that a particular phrase or sentence or word could have. Yeah. And I realized that I needed to have that so that I have a counter argument that I can prove theologically from the Bible to address the misconceptions and the myths that are used in churches to try to control people's sexuality so it looks a particular kind of way. Because the thing about these biblical or Christian communities, especially if they're particularly conservative, is that they don't really encourage people to go read and learn and think and understand the history and the context and the language of this book that they're studying. And when you do the theology, you realize that there really is no contrast or conflict between what the Bible says and what science says. And so one of the things I've done with clients who come to me from Christian backgrounds, because they come with particular issues. Like when a client starts talking to me, I know, like 9 out of 10 times I am accurate about the religious background they come from, because the symptoms are so specific. It's text. They come to me textbook, and these are usually women, and they're different ages, different developmental stages, but their words are exactly the same when they're describing the challenges they have. And all I have to ask is, do you belong to this religion? Or did you grow up like this? And it's all yes, all the time. Yeah?
Onika, could I stop you one quick second? I want to share this with you. You haven't said that. I remember I led a women's group at a church. I was chosen, I was asked to do it. And one of the things I talked to them about was facing their sexual desires and facing their sexuality. Well, what a subject that I tried to get them to think about in the church, all these nice church ladies. And here comes this crazy heathen Jamaican woman just insist on, let's bring it out. And I said to them, one of the things I had to stop using a particular machine at the gym. Why? It sexually stimulated me. When I used that machine, and I remember saying to somebody, if I knew a fellow in the gym, I might proposition him because that's how intense the feeling was. Trying to talk to these women, they got so flustered. They got so angry at me. Oh, why do you want to talk about this? I said, because it's real. And being a Christian is real. And if you're really a Christian, you want to know about this stuff because that's how you keep yourself away from trouble. Sorry, that just came to me. I just had to share that.
There's a machine.
Oh my gosh.
That gets
so I am so glad she shared that because it's not, I am sure it's not the machine. It is the part of the body that the machine targets. There is something.
Responds to, yes, ma'am.
Yes, there is something called orgasms.
Yes.
Which refers to the ability to experience orgasm through a particular series of exercises. So there are some people who go into the gym because, listen, once I start doing this certain exercise, I get off, and I'll get off several times in the gym. And that is also something that you can learn,
Because I'm sorry, but the other thing, Anika, but the other thing is that when your body is sexual, when you're healthy physically, you're more likely to have orgasms.
Yes, and it's a good thing.
From exercising,
great things happen to your body coming from
because your body's you're hyped up.
Yes.
I'm sorry, that is about me. Sorry.
No need to apologize.
It is about me.
No need to apologize. So it's really beginning to reframe our thinking of sex and seeing sex as medicine, pleasure. Yeah. So I wanted to address the fact that there are particular signs and symptoms that come out of heavy religious backgrounds, and not just Christians. So Muslims or people who come from a very orthodox or strict Jewish backgrounds, and particular religions from which the women present with textbook signs and symptoms that never get addressed and that don't get addressed when they go to marriage counseling, end up in marriage and big problems. Yeah, and so so I wanted to say that there are ways to address that. And the last thing, I guess just to summarize, is to offer you or to offer people a suggestion of how we view sex going forward, and not just sex, but sex and relationships. One of the things that I have been working with that has come up often in my practice within the last, I guess, 6 months or so, probably a little bit more than that, are couples who are coming to me trying to open up their relationships. I mean, married couples or couples who've been together for years. And so addressing non-monogamy has become a thing that I find myself doing regularly now, to the point where people are asking me to create a safe space so couples can meet couples who want to open up their relationships. And now I'm saying that to say that we have a particular moral lens that we look at when it comes to sex and sexuality that really doesn't work for everybody. There is no one size fits all. And when we are talking about sex that is healthy, we're looking at sex that causes no harm to you or your partner. It doesn't mean that only happens within a monogamous situation. And what works for one person or a particular couple will not work for anybody else. And there are different ways to negotiate what that looks like. And sex means different things to different people. So only when we are open, honest, and vulnerable with ourselves and with our partners, only when we allow ourselves to be intimacy, are we able to understand each person's quirks, their needs, their wants, their wishes, what their goals are. And then you begin to negotiate where those overlap with your partner and whether that is enough for you to go forward in any kind of committed interaction with each other. So they're just offering you or suggesting that we really open up our minds to the reality that there are multiple ways to engage with our sexual energy, including people who simply have a mindful erotic practice. That's what their masturbation looks like. It's a mindful erotic practice. And they simply generate their sexual energy by themselves and they use it as a meditative practice. And they move that energy through their body from the pelvic area to an area where they may be having pain, and that pleasure soothes the pain. Your body is a wonderland. It is a marvelous, marvelous, marvelous machine created.
It is. Yes, it is.
by a particular being. And we really limit ourselves to what it can do because we have this very narrow way of looking at sex based on our colonial Judeo-Christian upbringing that hasn't been very accepting and authentic when it comes to recognizing the variety and diversity of human sexual expressions. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Onika, go ahead, Sam. Go ahead, Sam.
Thank you for
so when you, I just was curious, like people coming to open their situation up, were these overseas inquiries? Wow. Okay.
Tobago has changed.
Well, Trinidad and Tobago, both islands. It's not limited to one island.
Interesting. That's very interesting.
They take the boat and come across. Wow.
Anyway, beautiful people, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for inviting me to share.
The pleasure has indeed been ours. Look forward to having you back at sometime in the future. We're going to coin a particular subject matter, whatever it may be, but we really enjoyed your presence here today, the wealth of information that you brought to us. Thank you so much for joining us. Please tell the people where they can find you.
Right. So I am on Facebook as Onika Henry, but my business page is also there, O Henry Consultancy Services. So if you know that American chocolate, O Henry.
Yes. Oh yes.
Right. So O Henry Consultancy Services is on Facebook, on Instagram as well. You'll find, I think it's under, yes, also O Henry Consultancy Services on Instagram. That is my business page there, but I'm also just Otasha 18, and that is my very irreverent Instagram space. So if you kind of want to get a sense of who Onika is outside of the professional sexologist, that is Otasha 18 on Instagram. But my business pages are O Henry Consultancy, both on Instagram and on Facebook.
Thank you so much.
Your
and one of these days,
is appreciated. It's appreciated.
One of these days, we're going to trace that Henry lineage and see if there's any connection.
If there's a connection.
Any connection down the pumpkin vine. Once again, Onika, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Have a good evening. Have a good night.
You as well.
Bye-bye.
All right, thank you. Bye, Onika.
Hi, I'm Dr. Judith Barnes. I'm an author, a playwright, poet. I'm also a broadcaster by training. And I recently found out about 2 years ago that I can paint paintings, which means I paint sceneries, I paint landscape, I paint animals. I have just discovered, and so that I can do this. And so along with all the other gifts and talents that I've been blessed with, I have paintings, and they are on view and for sale on Etsy and also on Facebook. And if you desire to order any painting or order one of my books, because I'm also an author, please give me a call at 470-564-8267. That's Dr. Judith, and the number again, whether you want to just talk to me or order one of my paintings or one of my books, please feel free to call 470-564-8267. Thank you.
Hello there and welcome. My name is Curtis Henry.
Over the past few weeks, as we were putting the final pieces together to get the show on the road, some people asked, why do you need to showcase Caribbean people? Why Caribbean Chat? And I say, why not? Because we as Caribbean people have worked too hard, come too far, and suffered too long for us to continue taking a backseat. It's time for us to rise up, speak out, and show the world the value and the richness of our culture. So I'm providing a platform to showcase the history and culture of Caribbean people in entertainment, the arts, politics, sports, and economics. We will explore the many profound contributions they have made to society. So we invite you to stay with us as we launch what is to become one of the greatest voices of Caribbean people, for Caribbean people, by Caribbean people. On this platform, Caribbean people of excellence get to tell their story. Our aim is to ensure that your contributions are acknowledged and celebrated. Welcome to Caribbean Chat. So make sure you like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and be sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube. We are Caribbean Chat. Welcome back once again to Caribbean Feedback. We are continuing our conversation on sexual health, sexual healing. Dr. Judith, get up. She going to drink some tea or something?
She making something in the back that she doing.
Something. She always in the kitchen. But here, what I'd like for the woman, since Onika has left, I want to speak to these two women here tonight. I want you all to introduce. Now, I want the woman on the panel. I want you all to discuss this issue for a quick second. The issue of foreplay before intercourse. The music, the wine, the flowers, the lingerie. Is all of this excess stuff really necessary? To go out and buy a piece of garment that would stay on only for a few minutes after it's revealed? If it even comes off at all? Are we just living up to other people's expectations or what their suggestions as to what foreplay and sex is supposed to be about? Is this something that's important to you, or is it even important at all?
Who are these other people that you talk? Who are these other people? Oh my goodness. Who are these other people you're talking about? You're talking about two individuals. You do something that you think will be attractive to your partner. Women like music. I like music. I don't know about where these flowers come in. Flowers are not important for foreplay. But for women, foreplay is, as Dr. Judith, Ms. Henry stated repeatedly, for women, it starts in the mind. You know, you set the tone, lighting. There's a certain level of gentleness, physical closeness, light touch, stimulation wherever you think your partner would be stimulated, leading up to an actual sexual intercourse. But that may be half an hour in before you actually get to that point. And yes, it is important for a lot of women. It's important to me. So yes, it's important.
What about the lingerie part? The lingering?
Whether it comes off in 2 seconds or 30 doesn't matter. You had some eye appeal. That's important.
But if I already know what you look like, what is the purpose of going and putting on this little skimpy piece of thing? A long t-shirt would do me just fine.
What is the purpose of actually putting a plate of food and making it an attractive presentation? All eye appeal.
Andrea said foreplay is the romantic aspect. But the question is it necessary?
Yes. It was my last response. Yes, it is. For a lot of women. I can't answer for all. For a lot of women.
I personally think that it should be 5 play, not 4. I don't know where they got 4 from. It's just too short. It's too short a time.
So wait, the eye candy was for who? For Karin? When you spoke about the laundry, it was for you? I mean, or is it for the lady when she puts the laundry on, or is the eye candy for the gentleman?
When you go to a restaurant,
We're gonna go in a different direction because you love all these metaphors. You love the metaphors. So let me try to communicate.
Yeah, let's metaphor it up. Yeah, because
all right, let's make a metaphor it up. You go to a restaurant. If you came to I'm a chef. If you came to a restaurant where I was cooking and I just slap things on a plate and just you look at me like, you think I'm eating that? You think I'm going to enjoy any part of that? No. A woman wants to appeal to your eye. You also want to appeal to her. That's why you make sure you shave.
No, well, I don't.
Shampoo, if you have the hair, shampoo the hair. Wash the scalp, wash the body, scrub up the body parts, make sure everything is on point. We put on something that we think, even if it's lasting only 2 seconds, we like this.
Keyword.
Cool. Fantastic. Right? Put on a little perfume if your man likes that. Nice. Get together, have that little hour or whatever. It varies with each hook up, link up. But you do things to appeal to each other's eyes, don't you?
I just you say what you think that person is gonna like, and this is my point. Why
if you don't like it, you say so.
$60 on a little piece of skimpy thing that half of the time.
If you don't like it, you say something.
They don't belong in a little piece of garment like that anyway. So this is my point. You go and you put on this. Society said this is what you need to please a man. No, why?
Mr. Henry, may I say something, sir?
I asked you the question too. I waited.
Yeah, well, okay. I was talking to a gentleman on the phone a couple years ago, and I said to him, I said, I forget what we're talking about. We're talking about age and maturity and whatever. And I said, I was looking at the mirror. I passed by the mirror. I was in my apartment at that time, and I passed by, and as I passed by, I saw my rear end. I've been working out for over 20-something years, and I thought, whoa, not bad. That's what I thought about my butt. That's not bad for a 64-year-old woman at that time. And so we were talking, and he claimed he was mature. So I said that to him, oh, you're not supposed to say that about yourself. I said, I'm supposed to wait for you to tell me that? I'm the one that saw it in the mirror. I liked what I saw on me. When I put on something, and I'm just being very, as I usually am. When I put on something that I consider sexy, I behave differently. My whole attitude to some extent changes because the outfit matching with the thoughts that I'm having. And for me, it has to be love. It has to be some affection, because I'm not going to be bedding down with somebody I don't have any affection for. I'm just not going to do it. I don't care how good the sex looks. I'm not going to do it. Anyway, so by the time the gentleman sees me, he doesn't have to like lingerie. But I tell you one thing, the way I conduct myself, the way I feel about me, he's likely to feel very, very drawn to me. Because I am carrying myself in a way that I feel pleasure towards him, but I also feel pleasure towards myself. So when he sees me, it's not about, men don't necessarily say, oh, it doesn't matter what she has on. I think most men feel I just want to get to it. Some of you will push it aside and do what you got to do too. That's not for me. I mean, that guy would be a goner. He wouldn't be dealing with me. But what I'm saying is that there's nothing wrong with the lingering. There's nothing wrong with the music. Not every woman needs it. Not every woman wants it. Understand? Like I said, I believe in 5-play. This 4-play thing is too short. And what Onika was saying earlier, a man who is in possession of his brain, he can drag it out. Why am I clapping my hands? Gracious me. That must have been a memory. Anyway, he can drag it out. And that makes it, and let me tell you, a man who can wait before he inserts his penis, that's a gem. It means he's thinking.
Wait until you are ready.
But you've been waiting for weeks. He been waiting for weeks.
But listen.
No.
You can have bim bam, thank you, ma'am. Some people don't say thank you. You can have that, and you're physically released, but you don't have nothing left. It's got to be more than that. And I think men want more than that. I think you all have more than that, but you just scared to death. Because when you get over that threshold, not like she said, not the what do you call what's the word? Not the orgasm. What's the other word?
Ejaculation.
Not that. Because y'all spent by then. I'm sorry, no disrespect. Y'all spent. But if you as a man can have several orgasms, because orgasms are not about releasing of sperm. That's not what it's about.
It makes a lot of sense that we give out, We have to rise up. Hold on, we have to rise up. We have a lot of work to do.
But you see something? You could have less work if you knew what this was all
Ghanaian
about.
is gonna come out of me right now.
I was just being funny.
No, but seriously, you see, that's where I think men lose the whole thing. You don't have to listen. It's a partnership, and if both of you are engaged and pleasing each other, nobody's working harder than the other. As a matter of fact, it's a journey of pleasure.
Stop. How dare you sit down there and talk about nobody working harder than the other?
Listen to me. What is the operative word?
I am no young buck when it comes to this business.
What is the operative word I use? I said have to work.
I have seen women who lay down stiff like a board.
What are you talking about?
Stiff like a board, and all the work is on you. What do you mean we're talking about?
Then that's an individual situation. That is an individual situation. That is not across the board.
Why you hook up with a woman like that?
But you won't know until you get there.
But you got there, get up.
Ring the bell and get off at the next stop. I mean, for heaven's sakes, it's not a lifetime commitment.
You already have an investment there. Your time, your most precious asset, you already invested.
You did?
To bring you up to this point.
You did?
Yes, you invested a lot of time.
Seriously now. All right, and listen, let's be technical. How can a man, and I'm being serious, how can a man as stupendous as you are, I'm talking about you, a man who is so dynamic and so spontaneous. I mean, these are things you have told me about yourself. But a man with all these great attributes, how could you get deeply involved spiritually, mentally with a person who's like a board?
But you see, they talk the talk, but then can't walk the walk. That is the moment.
Listen, a woman who's like a board, you're gonna see it. You're gonna see it in her behavior. You're gonna see it. You just deny it. You don't want to see it.
Let me draw a bridge. I think
back in the days we used to talk about them. We say,
"Hey, me no want to hear nothing about no bridge and no boat,
Let me
bring a different direction.
Let me bring
up here one thing about no boat and carrying a boat.
Both parties are correct. But I think there's a bridge we can draw.
Oh, the bridge.
Yeah, there's a bridge. Yeah, there's a bridge. So now, if you have two people that all they want to do is just have some scrambled eggs, is a different.
Let's not go to the food, man.
Hold on. If they just want scrambled eggs, is a different situation to if they want to have a meal.
Omelette. They want an omelette.
So what I'm saying is, no, this is not directed to Curtis, but if there's a situation where the person is like a log, they probably needed a meal opposed to scrambled eggs.
So he should change his tactics.
No, you see, I'm not saying it's here. I'm not pointing.
I'm just asking you.
If the person,
some of this political stuff
is, if the person is like a log, it means that person didn't come for scrambled eggs. They came for a meal. So maybe if you're dealing with somebody and you're dealing with a log, then it means that you have more work to do. You have to tenderize and
I want you out. I'm a chef. Come out of the kitchen.
You may have to do some more foreplay
out of the kitchen.
And some
let me take over the kitchen. Go to the bedroom and have this conversation with your partner.
There you go. Conversation.
But we're having a conversation on
we're talking about food.
You have to talk to your partner. You have to ask them, why are you like a log?
What do you need? What should I do differently? What do you like? Talk straight.
This was an encounter, not a relationship where you are now stuck in it. I'm talking about after you put in the work to be with this individual. They do all the dressing and the talking and the dancing sometimes, and you tell yourself, yes, look like they could move.
Yes,
when they get in the bed, they stiff like a board.
So what happens then? You thought their dancing moves would translate to bed moves.
Oh yes.
Okay,
yes.
Well that's where you misread them.
Wait,
they like to dance, but they don't like to gyrate.
This is what we're talking about here. You see that? That's right, what we're talking about. Remember what the conversation we had last week?
Which one?
Avoidance and denial.
Yes.
Some people would not want to deny that aspect, or they may be avoiding. So now they put on all this fanfare, and you buy into the fanfare, but they're not really fully comfortable to be vulnerable in that moment. So now you get the experience of the log, not you now, but whoever it is. There's a log experience because now all the fanfare thing, all the rainbow, in
other words,
sparkle lights, everything come off now. Now it's time for action.
Okay. So in other words, we're talking about pretentiousness and we're talking about deceitfulness.
Exactly.
So then if you see those elements, then you move on.
After.
You move on.
After.
No. You see, that's the problem. You think you have to get something. You see, that's the problem. You think you have to get something.
But why am I there?
Listen to me. You know what that guy said to me once, that a man that I know very well. You know what he said to me once? He said that in Jamaica, when he lived in Jamaica, a woman had her own business. I can't remember what kind of business. And he wanted to go to the North Coast. And she said, come, I'll pay for your ticket to come and everything and whatever. And he went down there and they were there together as like a Saturday night laying in bed, and she wanted action. And he said to her, he said, so wait, look, you think you can buy this? He said, you think so because you pay for it, you think so it's just here for you to order it around? He said, no. He said, I'm going to lock my leg until me ready. A man, and Onika said it, when men are thinking men, when a man can walk away from that thing that he so desires, is a powerful man. If it's not good for you, don't try to beat the log into working. Get up and go your yard and change the way you relate to people, because there's something about you, and I'm not saying you, Curtis. There's something about this man that he got hoodwinked. Okay, I don't like those words, but anyway, he got fooled. So what you need to learn to do is change the way you approach things, so you don't end up with a log again. Because if you keep doing what you do, you go off several logs.
But you see, you see how they buy a Sam. You see how they buy when Karin spoke. When Karin spoke just now about her 100-meter sprinter,
right?
Nobody can say that. The problem wasn't Karin's choice; it was about the sprinter.
But
right?
what was
where the blame went?
What was good about blame? What was good about it was that at least now she can say, you know what, I could have dealt with that differently. But okay, now if you realize that this person is somebody you can't help is one thing. But maybe the person just needed to go over a certain hump to free up. I'm just saying, you know.
I realize you're just saying the hump.
Right. But so it could be that this person, there's no help that you could provide.
But remember, remember this, the gentleman said there was no real relationship. There was nothing here. In a real relationship, you want to find out what's going on. You want a real, hey babe, what's up? You know, you kind of stiff there. I mean, I'm the one that's supposed to be stiff. What's going on?
I was there for a party. That's it.
You what?
I was there for a party.
Okay, so I'm telling you, not you. I'm telling the man that his motives were off. That's what you wanted. You deserve it on the blouse and skirt you get, because you should not. This is my saying now. Just to have a physical sexual release is not healthy for anybody. I'm sorry, that's my personal opinion. If you don't want more than that, well, not somebody could talk to me, because I want more than that. And like she said, one of the most powerful things that she said, several powerful things. One of the most powerful things that Onika said tonight. This thing here is one powerful organism. It is powerful, not just in terms of intelligence and the brain, but in terms of sexual functioning. It is awesome, off the chart. We don't know how to use it because we don't talk to each other. And not everybody some people might, like you said, some people might start out as a log, and something happens and they become more malleable. They're not a log anymore. But remember this, what we seek is why we have the experiences we have. If you seek just to have a physical, then that's all you're gonna get. But if you want intimacy, like she said, it's a phrase that Bishop T.D. Jakes coined. Intimacy. If you want to see intimacy, then you gotta play a little in the bed, you gotta joke a little bit. You got to tickle a little bit, talk a little foolishness, get serious, then laugh again. Man, it's a wonderful thing. That's why I don't mess with it unless I'm invested, because it is powerful. Listen, let me not say that. Listen, the bottom line is that it is a miraculous experience. But we take it and make it third rate. We make it into, man, come on.
I'm interested in the one where you can actually sit down and meditate and move it around your body to where the pain is.
But do you know that women, when a man says his penis, he has an erection and he's not able to, or willing or whatever, to fulfill his desire and have a ejaculation or whatever. Do you know that a woman can hurt? A man will say he's feeling pain because he's not able to ejaculate. Men do that. Say that, right?
Yeah, blue ball.
Okay. Do you know that women can have the same pain in her vaginal area that she's not able to fulfill and achieve an orgasm? Do you know women can have a pain there too?
Wait, hold up.
Is that a rhetorical question, or you're
asking? I'm asking. Do you know that?
No.
Wait, but blue balls is a.
Women don't have blue balls, because they're all balls.
No.
What happens? They have blue tun.
If a guy is expecting to have sex, and it doesn't happen anymore, then he may experience what they call blue balls. Is that what
he may experience discomfort and actual physical pain?
Right, but I mean, you're saying that the women experience that too.
Yes.
So meaning that she was expecting to have something.
Of course.
The guy changed his mind.
It's not just expecting. There's a certain amount of arousal. You get to a certain point of arousal, and if the whole thing is not satiated, it doesn't come to fruition. A woman can have, because she's carrying. Oh man, y'all don't know. She can have pain.
Okay. So now, if it's blue balls for a man, wait is for a woman.
Blue tun.
So, Dr. Judith, I want you to speak for a moment about sexual violence against men.
Because
women. when we speak about sexual violence and rape, most times we tend to think about a man raping a woman. We talk about men being violent towards women sexually. But speak for a moment about sexual violence against men.
I don't know a lot about it. Like Onika said earlier, I don't know a lot about the opposite side either. But I will say this, that it does exist. And there are a lot of things that exist in terms of women against men that women don't want to talk about and men don't want to talk about. And men are embarrassed to talk about it. But I also think that there's an intimidation element that women use with men verbally that would make the sex act almost impossible. And yet a woman will say she's in love with this guy, and she certain things that she says, verbal stuff, that has him not able to perform. And where it comes to violence and sex, as we said earlier, it's all about domination, it's all about power, it's all about feeling that you're in control. And when there are women in the islands, Jamaica, I know for a fact, and there are Caucasian women too in this country who will tell you if a man doesn't hit you, he doesn't really love you. Those things still happen. Those things still happen today, where women feel that if a man doesn't hit her or is forceful with her, he really doesn't love her. So I don't, like I said, I don't know if all I know is that any kind of violence, anything that demands from me what I don't want to give, is a major issue. But I do believe that women hurt men. And maybe not. I can't remember the story years ago where they said a woman raped a man, and they say it's impossible. It couldn't happen. I don't agree with that. I think because a man responds physically and has an erection, that a woman could force herself on it.
I heard about that back in well, it was the weirdest thing to hear, but this was like in the early 80s. Mm-hmm. And apparently when the news broke, this went on the news. Mm-hmm. Like the news reported this. Apparently it was on a plane ride, and the guy was sleeping so he's sleeping in his chair. And by the time the man wake up,
I girl gone to town,
going about your business. And so, so that was like around one of the first times I heard a man had gotten raped.
Yeah. But I think one of the problems is that even in physical abuse, there are women who beat men, and men don't report it because they feel, they're gonna be teased and taunted.
Well, yeah.
And they don't.
A man wouldn't want to go out there and tell, the woman beat him, or
right.
It's really hard for a man to he can't even tell his boys that.
Right. So there are a lot of things where men don't speak up, right? And women get away with some stuff, because I'm not. Yeah. There are a lot of women that they're very feminist in their views, and I'm not feminist. I'm about fairness. If you're a woman and you do something wrong, you're wrong. If you're a man and you do something wrong, you're wrong. That's how I look at life. My brothers know that. I mean, they know that because I was very hard on them. I'm not going to take your side because you're a man. I don't believe in that. But I think there are a lot of things that women do that physical abuse. There are men who are trained not to hit a woman. There are women who are told by their mothers and maybe even by their fathers not to hit a woman. And that man will attract a woman who will beat him. And she'll tell him that he's weak, and she'll tell him that he's this. I mean, I've watched
and literally slap him around.
Yes, I have seen a woman who will just in front of other people, they shame him. And what I'm always amazed about in those situations is that you think he's weak. If he was weak, he would kill you. I mean, it takes a lot of strength to walk away from somebody and not harm them, especially when they're harming you publicly. It's one of the things that when I'm able to talk with women, I try to tell them, because I've seen women taunt a man till he wants to hit them. And there's some decent men that I've known that they walk away because, first of all, they know if the cops come, they're going. Although these days they'll take the woman too. But there are a lot of injustices that exist. And that's one of the reasons my father said he would never live in this country. But the problem is that men don't report it because they feel they're gonna look small and less masculine if they report this stuff. But it does exist. It does
And
exist.
you know, earlier on I spoke about sexual violence. Well, I mentioned sexual violence now, but earlier on I spoke about these high expectations that women, because of some of their sexual appetite, what they place on men, to the point where you have young guys in their 30s, 20s, and 30s going to use these enhancing drugs because somehow your natural strength is not good enough. And you are now looked upon as weak as a man because you don't do what society expects of you to do. And I've said it before, wanted a woman who wants you to pound out her inside for hours at a time until they tap out. This interaction is not no MMA bout. This is not mixed martial arts. Why you have to tap out of a situation? Why these women who demand this kind of an interaction where they want to be beaten into submission, I'm talking sexually.
Mm-hmm.
And then as a man, you cannot satisfy that. So you have these young guys going into these shops and gas stations and buying these sex-enhancing pills and stuff to meet these expectations.
Okay.
That in itself, I think, is a form of abuse in terms of what the expectations that they expect men to meet.
It is, but like a woman, and I've never understood this. I've never understood. A woman gets physically abused by her husband, a man, whatever. He gets up and goes to work, and she waits for him to come back home to abuse her again, and she fixes him dinner. My brain can't process that. That's just me. I understand there's a cycle. Abuse has a cycle, and all this stuff has reasons mentally, emotionally why they exist. I don't get that because I don't like nobody hitting me. So if somebody hit me, I get stupid. I mean, I don't. It doesn't make sense.
No, but again, back to the sexual part, though. The sexual
no. But wait a
minute.
But listen to me. I'm talking about that part first. When it comes to the sexual, just like a woman, in my opinion, is responsible for not being there when he gets home, a man is responsible to say, no, I'm not doing it. And that's because why are you a victim? Why is a man, because she gonna tell other people that you can't keep up? To hell with her. Why are men trying to take these enhancing drugs? Why are you doing this? Obviously, she has some kind of issue. Anybody, because you down there will get sore. You'll get sore before she does. Because remember, if a baby can come out of there, you'll get sore first. So the thing is that if you know that you're being abused, stop it. Why are you allowing it? Because your manhood rests on how you perform sexually. So why aren't men saying, no, yeah, I want it, but I don't want it like that?
Certain men, though, not all men, you know, that's a certain men situation.
Well, I'm answering what Curtis asked.
Yeah, I have heard situation where a guy said but so many evenings he come home from work. And from the minute he walks in the door, she's there on her knees, pretending that she's cleaning the floor. Because she know he's coming inside any minute now. And from he steps inside, she wondered what his day was like.
Yeah, she sat in the
yeah, you know, I'm not saying that's okay. That's not okay once in a while, but for it to just be like to the point where.
So then I say what I said before. Talk to her. The man has to talk to her. If he cares about her, they have a relationship. He has to say, listen, it's not that I can't do this, you know. I don't want to do it so much. But remember, she comes with her perceptions. You come with yours. And so she comes with the myth that men, that's all they want. They want it 24 hours a day, and that's how you keep your man, and you keep him from anybody else by doing that. You don't know what the thoughts are that makes her do that. What happened to her in her childhood or younger years that makes her feel the need to do this? Because women, let me tell you, women, in my opinion, women have larger egos than men every day. That's my opinion. So what I'm saying is that if you are concerned and you have a real relationship, it's your job to say to her, listen. After a while, because one of the things that women forget, I think a lot, is that men are basically hunters. So if you always have it available for them, they know hunting to do. I can promise anybody, and I speak straight, and there are people who listen to me. I never had those issues in my life. And you know what happened? The more I kept a certain distance was more interested my husband was in me. I don't believe in, and I've talked to young married people recently. Do not make it so available. Keep some kind of interest. Let him wonder if you are interested anymore. And people say in the church, that's manipulation. I don't care what you call it, it works. So I teach women. I've taught women, I said, listen, your husband, maybe he's sitting in the kitchen, whatever, the living room. You pass by him. You just do this. And one of them was my oldest niece. She said, oh, Judith, you're crazy. But she did it. She did it and it worked. I said, well, what you do, you're showing him, and he comes, because a lot of men say, oh, she wants something. When he comes to you, you now have the opportunity to say, I just wanted to touch you. You're my baby. See, I believe in talk. I believe in nice ways to lower your voice, not necessarily for sex, but for intimacy. So I told her, I said, you can let him know that you didn't really want sex. You just wanted, because you find him so attractive, you just wanted to touch him. Her husband, it blew him away. Because then he pursues her without her coming across as always chasing him down. But women do not necessarily want to learn things like that. Women feel that if they have the body and the lingerie, because women think they're in charge. And you guys give them that impression. By buying the stuff and drinking the stuff and smoking the stuff instead of saying, listen, I can't do no more tonight. I'll mash up. Can I just hold you, sweetheart?
Well, hold on. Who's saying that you can't do no more tonight? You mash up. Who, the lady saying that or the man saying that?
No, I said the man, if it's too much, he needs to tell her. He needs to say, listen, that's real talk. That's real. What's wrong with saying that? You see, that's the problem.
That's easy for you to say.
Because
that's easy for you to say.
They normally think the man has to mash it up.
That's easy for you to say, Dr. Judith.
Listen. Perception, thoughts that we have about ourselves, that's what's killing you. Because nobody's going to mash me up. You understand? Everybody's going to mash me up. I said, listen, take a look at break, man. We say, I don't have to do that because I know, and I'm not boasting, I'm just telling the truth. I know how to turn that around. I know how to turn that around to intimacy. I know to turn that around to just hugging. And you'll be surprised. I try to tell women, a man will love that hug if you do it a certain way.
But you know what? From personal experience, right? There was a touch.
Put up that comment, Sam. Put up that comment.
From personal experience, this is years ago, of course. There was a touch.
Put up that last comment, Sam.
And then after the sex, it was like I didn't really want sex.
What do you mean? You just wanted to touch, or it wasn't?
No. Like what you said, what you were saying, you know, that you just wanted to touch the person. But they didn't get to stop the sex.
So I don't stop you.
Then
I don't stop you.
Then they stop you. Oh, I am telling you what happened with me. Then they say, "Oh, I wasn't really planning to go all the way."
Yeah, but you forced the issue.
No, I don't. Nobody was forced.
So she went along.
Right, she went.
Samuel, go to sleep.
They went along, and then after they said, "Well, I just wanted to touch you."
But remember something, Sam. Very seriously, remember this. What I suggest to her, or any woman, or anybody, I don't suggest that to you just for somebody who you're laying down with because you feel like having sex. I'm talking about people in committed relationships. I'm talking about people who want to be together and they're together and they want something more than just sex. They want a relationship. They have it and they want to keep making it better. That's why I don't give those advice to people who just the hot and they feel well. Let's go around the corner. No, I'm not talking about those.
That's understood. I was just saying to you that sometimes.
Yeah.
All right. No, there's one other thing. There's one other thing before we wrap it up here tonight. I didn't bring to the table earlier on when Onika was here. I want to bring in this issue where toys are concerned.
Toys?
Toys. I would just refer to them as toys.
Like Toys R Us?
No, toys are all here, not us. But women jump up and they talk the issue, but they want a real man. And men are unscrupulous and all the other titles that they put on men in terms of where sex, men are dogs, men are this, men are the next, that. And this is coming from a woman who would use a cucumber, a plantain, a rubber dildo, a shower head, all these the shower head.
Yeah, okay.
All these different devices for pleasure, and then yet still call a man a dog because he go with another woman for pleasure. What's that about?
I have no idea.
Oh, you have no idea on that? We have a next woman on the panel.
I'm not that kind of woman, so I don't know. Listen, seriousness.
Hold on, Judith. You say you have no idea. We have a next woman on the panel. She quiet.
Well, I was gonna tell you, but it's all right. Go ahead.
I don't know why you link the two things. The man is a dog, or the woman considers him a dog for a series of behaviors. That has nothing to do with her using sex toys to pleasure herself. Those are two totally different issues in my view.
He used another woman to pleasure himself.
No, but I'm saying if he's the reason that he would be labeled a dog is because of behaviors he's exhibiting. When she's using toys to pleasure herself, those are two separate issues in my book. Two separate issues. I'm not sure why you link the two. One is not the cause and effect. There's no causal effective relationship there in my mind.
Women usually call men dogs because they say men run around. That's
right,
why
their behavior. Yeah.
Finding another source for pleasure. And the woman find other sources for pleasure in objects.
But wait a minute.
The two are not necessarily
run around
cause
because
and
he's not
effect.
getting pleasure from his partner. She calls him a dog because he's getting pleasure from her and getting pleasure from other people too. That's usually why a man is called a dog, because he's doing it at home and he's going out there doing it to somebody else too, or several other people. So that's why, in my estimation, that's what you see. I don't call men dogs because my attitude, I've said this to women. If you call them a dog and you keep chasing them, what are you looking for? Fleas? Why are you chasing them? That's my take on it. I mean that very sincerely. I don't believe a woman's job is to chase a man. I am firmly against that. I believe that you meet and you like each other, whatever. You can give a hint that you like the person. But I don't think that I should be chasing any man to do anything. Nothing. I don't believe a man should leave the house, whether they're married or not, and a woman call him, where are you? You know where you are. You know where you went. I would assume you know how to get back home. I'm not calling you about anything. Because what I think that women do, we weaken our stance when we keep doing these things. If a man goes out someplace, why am I checking on him about what time he's coming home? He doesn't have amnesia. He remembers where he was. Why am I asking? And we give men power, too much power, when we do that foolishness. I know women who the man abuses them, and she cooks and she cleans and she do all this nonsense. And then the man, on top of it, he's rude to her, disrespectful to her, and he leaves her. She go asking where he's going. You can keep going because you're not treating me well. So in that case, women give men power. And I'm sorry, I don't believe a lot of things how women respond to men, and I don't believe a lot of things how men respond.
So I know we're closing up, but let me bring a bridge to that. Okay, so I think what could
a bridge again?
Stop with the bridge, no man.
All right, go on through.
If I say I talking about a bridge, I am the man, well, one of the men on the panel, a bridge.
Put your foot down, sir. Put your foot down.
Bring the boat in.
If I see a bridge coming, it coming. Why,
oh, Lord, the bridge coming.
So, is talking about if someone is being deprived, but she is getting fulfillment, and then he have to roll out to be fulfilled because she want to fulfill him in that moment. So I think that's where he was.
One more time.
That's not how he said it.
Let
the man talk. Let the man talk. All you say. Let the man talk. Let the man talk.
So let him bring in the boat. Bring in the boat.
That is, he was bringing that comparison there, but I guess the way it came over now, it went in another direction. Now, if someone is being abused physically, right? The man is abusing this person, and this person cooking and cleaning, and when he come home, there's food and whatnot. Then something is wrong in terms of why these two people got together in the first place. There was no proper communication. They didn't spend the proper time they needed to spend to figure out, well, you know what, I am this kind of person. He is this kind of person. So maybe she grew up a certain way, trained, okay, you know what, regardless of what, you need to love this man. Because in the church, when they go to the wedding and in the repast and everything, let me repast, Lord Father.
The repast. Reception.
What they call it? The reception.
They killed them already. They dead already.
But you know what? Call it a repast anyway.
Reception.
But in the reception, they tell the woman, love the man and give the man what he need, and love and love and love and love. So now she getting she tail whip up in the house, and she said, well, maybe this was this love thing about she cooking and she cleaning, making sure he have food when he come home and all of that. And so there's something wrong there. That is not what Curtis was talking about. Curtis was talking, we're pointing. This camera is something else. But what he was talking about was one person is sort of trying to initiate who gets pleasure or who gets fulfilled or who gets satisfied, and try to determine how the other person is being satisfied.
Listen, I understand what you're saying. What? So now what I'm fully understanding here is that he's saying we're together. She's not giving me what I need, but she's doing her thing with the dildo and the shower and all this stuff, and she's giving herself pleasure, which I'm not interested in participating in. I would assume. So I go outside and get some. That's what you're saying, right? That's what you're saying. That's basically the scenario.
That's how some people choose
to do that, and some women, I'm not saying all women, who choose to do that. But yet still, the men are looked down upon for their actions. But even in how you all address the situation, you all talk about the men and the abuse and the everything, but nobody discussed the toys up to now. This is what I'm talking about.
Listen to me. But the blouse and skirt, I don't cuss you all night, you know.
You skip over the toys. Nobody discussed the toys.
Let me tell you why I might not discuss it. Because I don't believe in them. You understand? That's my personal view. I don't believe in them. I think if you have the real thing, you shouldn't need a toy. That's my take on it. You understand? And nobody has ever lived with me and tell me that they couldn't stay home because I was not going to give them what they wanted. And I never told them, if you stay home, I'm going to use a toy. I'm not into toys. So maybe that's why I didn't say nothing. And there are men who don't mind the toys. There are men who say, well, okay, bring in the toys and let's have some extra fun. There are men who say, bring in the other girl. There are women who say that these days, bring in the other girl and let's have some fun. But if you want a relationship with this person, it's not working out the way you want it, you need to tell them, listen, I don't want no toys, I want your tuntun. That's what I come here for. That's what me and you is here together. I don't want that's what I want. And if you're not giving it to me, I'm going to find it some places. And you see those toys you have in there, I'm going to burn them because they don't belong in my house because I have the instrument. And we don't need that in the house. I am very serious about those things. Let me tell you something. The moment people started bringing these things into their homes, pornography included, relationships have been suffering more and more. The human mind is that powerful. Between a man and a woman, you don't need no blasted porn. You make your own. Like I remember this woman said, this church woman said, she said about her husband, a pastor's wife. She said, I make my own porn with my husband. But people don't even want to use their imagination, but they want to go buy something. I don't understand why you would have a live person there with a live penis and go get something. Some woman got electrocuted by one. Why would I run the risk of being electrocuted by something inanimate when I have an animate person?
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that. Karin, take me home. Take me home.
And dash you. Sexual health, as defined by the World Health Organization, is a definition that I could relate to. It's a state of physical, emotional, mental, and social well-being in relation to sexuality. It is not merely the absence of disease, dysfunction, or infirmity. That's my taking home. That's how I view sexual health as not just an act, not just an illness or a lack of something, but the full picture of the person's health. That's all.
Dr. Judith, sexual healing. Take us home.
Sexual healing. Oh, that's a nice topic. That's a nice topic. Listen to me. I said it before. I believe that the sexual act between a man and a woman is one of the most magnificent things that God has created. It is a beautiful, beautiful thing. When done, to some degree, what Karin just said, when done in a healthy atmosphere. What's a healthy atmosphere? Mutual desire. And if you're physically healthy, sexual healing is much better. Because if you're not healthy, it ain't going to work that well. But if you're in an atmosphere where there's mutual admiration, mutual attraction, mutual affection, and that kind of stuff, and the mind, oh God, the mind. Listen, before any clothes get taken care of, before anything get taken off, up here. And I'm pretty good at setting some scenes. That's why I don't need no pornography. And I truly believe that, especially in this day and age, if men and women would get off of media and get back to the old-fashioned way. I used to hear this man beg his wife for sex. And he said, come now, man, give me something, man. And he beg and beg. And really did I hear her say, okay. But now I'm going to tell you something. I believe truly that when a woman, and I'm going to put it on a woman's feet because it is there. It's always been there. When a woman knows her own power, not to manipulate, not to mismanage, not to harm. When a woman knows her real power, and a man knows his real power, and those two entities interact, blouse and skirt, like the man said to me, there's going to be an explosion. But the problem is that we are not interacting. We're playing off of each other. We want this and we want that met. And we are living in a time where women talk about this glass ceiling, and they're going to bust the glass ceiling, and they're more interested in glass ceilings than they're in their relationships. A woman, and I will say this and I'll end with this, a woman must allow herself to be pursued. She must like who she is. That the man told me, I shouldn't say that about myself. Well, my behind look good to me. I'm waiting for you to tell me. And when I have that sense of self and value, he'll find me more attractive, because he found me very attractive, especially if I said that to him. And he told me, he said, Judith, when we get together, there's going to be an explosion. He was correct. It never happened because he's stupid, but that's all right. So what I'm saying is... That
was a quiet explosion.
Listen, it's okay. But what I'm saying is that when people... Let me tell you something about power. A woman, any human being that knows themselves, that call that I took earlier, part of the conversation was about that. When a person knows themselves and they can say, nah, I don't want that. I don't have to call you a dog. I don't have to cuss you. I just don't want that. But when they can conversely say, yeah, I want that, and the person is in agreement, and all the other pieces mesh to some degree, then you can have a real sexual healing. Because sexual healing only comes because there's been sexual hurt. And like we talked about denial and avoidance, if I don't say, I thank God I don't have any sexual hurt. I'm very grateful for that, because a lot of people do, men and women. And I'm grateful for that, because I'm sure my talk would be different. But when you have sexual hurt, you can have sexual healing, but you've got to say it hurts. And then the healing can come.
Yvonne Emmanuel said, thumbs up. Andrea said, the toys give her the orgasm because her partner is only interested in releasing his desire. Jade Alexander said, Judith, you are correct. If two people are into each other, they are able to explore each other and provide meaningful pleasure to each other.
Sir. Yes,
Carol Knight said, wash hand, Dr. Judith. I don't know what she mean by that, but Yvonne Emmanuel said that's a whole different subject. Carolyn said, Sam, you need to go to sleep. Yvonne said it is not serious. That's me she talking about. Is he really telling me he's just trying to extend the conversation? How in the world can you compare infidelity to self-pleasure? Really give me a break. Thank God for the voice of reason. Oh gosh, thank you. You need an explanation for that. Andrea says, Sam, go to sleep. Yvonne says most people have no idea what intimacy is. All they know what the industry tells them it is to be an adult sex, always ready. Promiscuous intimacy goes a lot longer. They need to take time to role play.
Yes,
Judith
sir.
Alexander said, Judith, Blue Tone, you're the best. Yvonne said, when a woman thinks like a man, she's a dangerous being. And you see, it's different from love making. Mr. Carter said the food analogy is appropriate. This is the same Mr. Carter who said in a song that when he was growing up, he was poor and his parents couldn't afford to buy him toys. It's a lucky thing he was a boy. Otherwise, he would have nothing to play with. It's a good thing he was born as a boy child.
That's right.
It's a good thing he was born as a boy child. Otherwise, he would have absolutely nothing to play with. Same guy. Foreplay is romantic, is the romantic aspect. Mr. Carter said he's going back to school tonight. Feel good. Yes, they're different. Lucy said all women are not the same. And to Miss Henry, Andrea said, I want to give you the Caribbean Feedback Best Guest Award for tonight's topic. Overall, it was a wonderful conversation. Rebecca Beckles, thank you so much for joining us. She said, don't look at it as if it scares you, baby. Just
do what you gotta do.
Do what you gotta do. I've never heard that one before. What Onika talk about men looking at it as if they're afraid. I have never heard that before. But I have known situations where men have gotten so close as if they want to return to the womb from whence they came. I have never heard anything about anybody looking at anything and being scared. I have never seen one that was that ugly that it made me afraid. It is a beautiful sight to behold. I am telling you all. Sam,
yes,
talk to us, take us home. Good sex. Talk to me.
If two people say I need to sleep, I need to sleep. But I will just basically say, let us not underestimate the importance of communication. One of the things that Onika said tonight kind of opened my eyes a little bit was was sort of like the last point she spoke about in terms of couples coming to see her to do, to change dynamics of that. I just thought that was really, really, that's a whole next dimension.
Yeah, that's a crazy dimension to me.
It's crazy. I agree. It's crazy. But if, it's almost like when, I was in high school and some of the elders, well, not elders, some of the adults, let's say adults, were trying to say to us at that time, condoms and be safe, because some were smart enough to know that we were having sex, and some was against it because we are not supposed to be having sex. But regardless of what it was something that was happening, and they had this information that they had to, you know what, all right, you're having sex, you need to have condom. So like, I'm just saying this is like a new wave of things. Well, I wouldn't say it's probably new, but new in terms of people actually communicating and discussing that is what they want to do. So that was just an interesting dynamic that kind of had me like, wow. But this was a really good convo. I learned a lot, and let us not underestimate the power of communication, and that's what I'll say on that. Before I go, because you're going to say something, right, Curtis? You're going to say something. Okay. Okay. We had two topics we did last week. I just want the audience to know we have. I had a chance to do the editing of that, so we have the version where we supported St. Vincent. That is on stream to come online about 10 a.m. tomorrow on the Caribbean Feedback Facebook page. And the avoidance and denial topic we spoke on is going to be on our Caribbean Feedback page at 7 a.m. So I just wanted to put that out there so folks who wanted to get onto those subjects can tune in for that time. So Curtis, on to you.
Let me discuss a little bit about sex and silence. My words of advice: sexual satisfaction isn't always a happy or steady relationship. However, if you should be lucky enough to find someone who stimulates you in the right way and somehow have that master key to your water pump, hold on, because as far as you hear the complaints of women, it's not very many people who can touch them in that right way to achieve whatever it is they want to achieve. So if you somehow happen to find somebody with that master key, hold on. And for everybody in general, learn how to shut up. If you had sex with that person who you've been after for a while and you finally get it, shut your mouth. The whole world doesn't need to know. Stop using sexual conquest as a feather in your cap or some badge to put on your shoulder. Stop talking. The whole world does not need to know. As for couples, stop telling your bedroom activities to your family and your friends, because all you're doing is creating images for your homeboy or your homegirl to walk around with in their heads. And it won't be long before curiosity gets the best of a weak mind and cause someone to violate your relationship. What happens behind closed doors, especially in your house, let that remain your business and not something to go broadcasting to the world. Sex is a sacred thing happening between two individuals, and let the results of that remain between the two individuals and not broadcasted to the world. It's not everybody else's business. Shut up. Thank you all so much for joining us.
Bless.
Peace and blessings.
Mm-hmm.